Hello. All right, today we're going to talk about those basic forms we made the other day, and we're going to make them into things. How cool is that? And the whole reason we did these basic forms and talked about light sources is because if you understand that how to do these basic forms and how the light would hit things, you really actually understand how to create a lot of things, because light will hit a cube just like it will hit the top of a house. A cylinder is essentially the same as all kinds of things like a pole or a tree. Cone is much like a mountain or an ice cream cone, or spheres. I'm going to show you how they become like blobs of branches or shrubbery, or really anything that's blob-like out there becomes, a sphere becomes those things. So you can break down anything into basic forms. Anything. And we're going to do this in a bunch of sort of back and forth way, because it really does help to let paint dry with watercolors, especially when you go from one to the other. So I'm going to start with the cylinder, I think. I'm going to make it into a tree trunk. We're going to be moving toward landscape. I've clean water, notice, and I'm going to take a drop of water and just tap it so that come on, maybe need a little more water on here. Each of my paints is slightly softened. Okay, why is it taking so hard? There we go. There we go. And ready to go. And I want to make sure this water's cool. Something I feel like I forgot to mention before. I'm just making a clean wash right here. So the reason why I want it to be cool water is because what happens when metal gets warm? It expands. Oh, thank you, students. That's great. And if it expands, when this metal ferrule, this is called, expands, the bristles can come out. I don't want that to happen, so I don't want it to be warm. So what I'm going to try and do here is just, use cool water, cool, clean water. And I like to play with colors. I think of a tree trunk as brown, right? It's brown, but it's a lot more than brown. It's a lot of different stuff. So I'm actually going to make my brown with orange and a little bit of its complement. And remember, from the color wheel, the complement is the color across the wheel from it. The one across from orange is blue. So a teeny, that might be too much, a teeny touch of blue. It's going to dull it. And I'm going to start on this side so I get more color over there. And I'm going to let it get lighter over here, just like I did with the cylinder. And there we go. Now I have this sort of base coat for my tree trunk. This is pretty light. I might want to add just a little bit more to it, but you get the idea. Oh, it's kind of the same. So what if I clean off my brush, lift a little paint from this side, clean it off up there, dry it out, and then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to give this some more color and let that blend. So I've created my cylinder. This will become a tree trunk in a bit. Now I'm going to leave it. C'est fini for the moment. All right, now let's switch brushes. I don't like to leave my brushes in the water. You can for a little bit, but just like you don't want the ferrule to expand, when wood gets wet underneath this little paint coat, that's going to expand too, and then my nice paint cracks off. I don't like it. All right, over here, I'm going to make this sphere into, let's start with greens, because I'm going to make it into like a branch, a blob of leaves on a branch. And yes, they're green. But anytime I mix, I don't want to use, I call these like skill colors. They're super bright. They're not really the colors that are out in the world, right? So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to this. And I'm going to make this, but as if I'm making it out of leaves. So my sphere, maybe I'll start just really loosely around. I don't want a perfect blob. I don't know why that required an accent either, but sometimes just get people's attention when I'm teaching, I'll throw that out there. So we throw it out there today. There we go. So I have some greens. I know it's going to be darker over here because same thing. I'm working with a light source from over there. So I'm going to add more of these darker greens here. And then maybe I get a little more of the yellow green here where it's lighter. And I'm going to make my dots further apart up there. So it's like the leaves, it's not perfect. Leaves are not all the same size. I don't need perfect, right? And then more here, just dab. Just little dabs. So I'm using a dry brush technique. I'm leaving my light source there. Now, let's play with those complements again. What's colors across the color wheel from green? Red. Oh, good job. Such smart students I have here today. And then, so now, ooh, look at that. It's nice dark green. I'll put some of this dark green over here, like that. So I'm getting, with color choices, this nice variation from light to dark. And I'm doing more dots on the dark side too. So it's like a pointillist blob. And you know, even though this is the light part, there's going to be a couple little darks in there just because the light is filtering through. I'll get some contrast. So just a little, not a lot, just a little. And you can start to see, do you see my sphere take place? It's looking a little too perfect to me. I want a little more blobbiness because, you know, trees aren't, it's not really perfect. Now it's almost looking square. There we go. But you get the idea. Okay? There. Blob. Blobby blob blob. Let's get some yellows in there too. All right, now I'm going to let that kind of dry a little bit before I put some branches in because I don't want the branches to blend in. And I'm letting the light come through. This isn't solid. The light is coming through the leaves. Huh? Just like they would in real life. The light would filter through. All right, there we go. Pretty good. All right, clean my brush. Now we can go back to our tree. And over on the tree over here, let's see. I want some darker colors. I could use this green if I wanted. Maybe I'll take some orange. Maybe I'll take it, that's purple. I want some blue. Just a little bit. It's gonna have a big effect. Oh, no, I took too much off my brush. Oh, there we go. See, now I get this nice dark brownish color. And I can start to add, which would be like the bark. So I'm dry brushing now that my wash is lightened. I'm lightening my pressure. I'm using less marks as I come over here. So even though there's a texture on it now and I'm making it into this trunk, see how they're thicker and thinner, less pressure, lighter mark over here. And it's still very uniform. The world is full of colors. This is a nice brownish something. I don't know what that was for. I'm just going to take that and maybe I'll add a few more of that. Now it's getting a little thick over here, so I got to be careful. I don't want to like make it another solid color. I want to let the colors and the textures interact, so not too much. So there we go. Maybe a little more over here. I'm having fun. There. So now, do you see how it's starting to become a trunk? A tree trunk? 3 branch blobs. There we go. Next, what if it's in front of the mountains? How do I make mountains? I have an idea. Let's go back with this one. I'm going to use my flat brush. And I'm going to add a wash. I'm going to add just a teeny touch of color so you can see it a little better. Normally this would just be straight water. I just want you to be able to see where my water is going. And here's my mountain shape. I didn't leave a whole lot of room. Maybe I'll do a couple. So now I need the color. Or I need the value. This is light because that's facing there. I like this kind of bluish, brownish. Oftentimes we think of mountains as blue, which is really, things look cooler as they get further away from us. And it's not bright blue, right? Mountains aren't like fluorescent blue. They look cooler, but they don't look fluorescent. So again, just play. I don't want a solid color. I want to get the illusion of like landforms and things in here. So I'm gonna let like some darker color create some stuff. Here's a ridge, I guess. This is play. I'm not so worried. Take a little bit off the brush and maybe I'll come over here and just set a little bit of color in there. Not too much because that's my highlight, right? So I'm gonna lift a little bit so this stays. I kind of like how I got a warm and a cool mixing together there. And I can go in and add a little more color if I wanted, or I can just kind of let it be for a bit. You just see this mountain is behind the tree blob. Yeah, see how that worked out? Great. And I can come back in and add some more texture later. Right now it's wet into wet. That's my technique. So where here we had dry brush on top of the wash, the wet into wet is letting that blend. Now how do I make a structure? I'm gonna let the cube become like a structure. I'm gonna go with sort of this reddish, orangish, colorish thing over here. We'll see. Again, every time, even when I'm playing and practicing like this, I mix colors because the world is not the Skittle colors. The world is made up of gray, gray, gray colors, which not to say it's not pretty and has bright colors, but basically what I'm saying is that nothing is the color straight out of the box, rarely. So this is where the light hits it. I'm gonna start as if this is the roof of my house. Oh, it's a bit dark. I wanted a little color in there so you could see where I'm putting the wash, but that's a bit much. So here we go. I'm going to set the edge. This is important. I'm resting my hand on my paper and I'm very carefully setting the edge and I'm not going back up to that edge after I put it in there. because, so really I'm just following the shape of the top of my cube right now. I keep wanting to say it's a trapezoid, not a trapezoid, parallelogram. Parallelogram. There we go. So I have that drawn in. I would have liked to put a wash down and even it out, but it worked out okay. Got lucky. Now, this is going to be my dark side, like here, because it's the furthest away from there. So I'm going to take my red, because I'm making this red varnish kind of thing, and I'm going to add a touch of green, just a little bit. I call it breaking the color. Darkening it, making it not look fluorescent. You know what I forgot? I forgot to make the wash. So let's do that. Now, I want that edge to stay. I love the edge of the roof to look like the edge of the roof, right? So I'm going to leave just a little bit of space right there for now. And I'm going to paint the other side. Might have a little too much water on my brush right now. I did add a little bit of color to it so you can see where I'm adding the water. Normally that would just be straight water. There we go. Now let's get my nice dark wash in there. Now this is going to get lighter because, a little touch of green again, because it's got water underneath it right now. Yeah, I want more paint on there. Come on, red. Give me some paint. Oh, that's a lot of green. There we go. That's okay. Oh, this is nice. I like that color. There we go. Again, remember, sound effects always make the paint work better. So I'm not coming to the edge. I'm going to leave it. Leave it alone. And that'll kind of even out a little bit. If I wanted to get, I could use, just to show you, more green. It's almost like pure green on the bottom, but it's going to blend. And it'll make it look like that corner is real dark. Now I need a medium value here, right? So I take my medium value, a little more red in there. And I'm going to set that edge. Oh, it's very close. I'm going to need some water in there to lighten it, huh? It's very hard to, I shouldn't say it's very hard. It's harder to go lighter. You can still do it. It's possible. I'm going to take some color off, add a little water to this. It's easier, is what I should say. It's not very hard. It's easier, I think, to darken an area than to lighten once you've kind of set them. But that works. That's a little lighter now. Looks like there's a little piece of fuzz there or something. If I wanted to make more differentiation between the two, I could go back, because this is still wet, and I still could. Remember, I just want to come up to the edge, trying not to go over the edge and mess it up again. That works. That darkens a bit because this was still wet, so I can still go in there. So by leaving a slight edge, I might come back and fix this. I'll probably come back later and put a darker edge in there. But I can make crisp edges to make them look building-like. I can do graded washes just like I did here. I can add textures. Maybe I come back to this. Let's see. What if I wanted to add a little more detail? Oh, it's a bright purple. Opposite of purple is yellow. I'm going to do some orange in here because I did some orange before. Oh, that's an interesting color. Maybe bring a little blue into it so it's closer to the blue in my mountain. Oh, sure. There you go. Totally different color, but that's fun. Here's my ridge. Here's my landforms. Maybe I take a little bit of water and just sort of blend it in with some of what's already there so it doesn't look like it's sitting on top of it. But I can do all kinds of stuff and make this become, just cleaning my brush so I can kind of fade this in a little bit here, like a mountain. So I've taken a cone, a sphere, a cylinder, and a cube, and I've shown you how really everything is made of basic forms. And here's some natural forms where they all kind of work together. I lost my ridge. I started blending too much. Should have left it alone. There you go. Now back to my little teeny round brush. I'm going to take some of this brownish color I just made because I like it. And we're going to call it a tree branch. Look, I put a branch in here. Now, if you're making a branch, it's always got to get thinner. Don't let your branches get wider. That's going to make a tree look not so good. All right, there's my branch. Now, if I'm going to add branches in here, They should be darker. Remember when we work in watercolor, you work light to dark? Here's my dark coming in later. We'll talk more about rules in a bit, but yeah, generally light to dark works way better. So here's some branches. Here's the branchy. There's branches even in the light part, right? But they're just got to be light and thin because that's the light part. And look at that. Now I have a branch of leaves. Oh, this got a little blendy, didn't it? I'd play with that some more once it's dry. I have some natural and forms. I've made my basic forms become things. That's how we play with watercolor. You get to do these things. I don't like how that mountain blended so much. What if I did this? I'm just playing. It's okay. Just play. Oh, there we go. Now I'm happier. Now it looks like it's got some form into it. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Distracted. All right. There you go. Forms become things. Everything is reduced to forms. You just got to figure out what they are and paint them as you see them. Voila! Thank you.